Okay, we're recording. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean, today we're going to get into a couple of things today. We've got a guest joining us shortly, going to be talking about some of the craft brew marketing awards coming up.
Who knew there was craft brew marketing awards, right?
That's right.
People
Pretty
wasting their
fancy,
time
too.
on the Golden Globes, and there's a craft beer marketing awards going on. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive trophies there too. I like that. But with the majority of our segment, we've got him joining us, our guest joining us here shortly. He's going to be with us for like 10 minutes to talk about that. But then we're going to get into talking about a topic that we've discussed in the past, but maybe we're going to take a different angle on this from the classic book, Breakthrough Advertising. It's been a while since we reviewed it. Thought it would be a good time to revisit that. I mean, that's just a book you should revisit every year, but we might take a little different approach.
Yeah, we might question some things. I mean, times have changed. Is the book still relevant? I mean, that's some of the questions we'll be asking. I know that's sacrilegious in the world of copywriting and persuasion, but
what?
I think it's time to question some things in the book. So stay tuned for that. Or fast forward, whichever you want to do. I don't care. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about our beers, and then bring Jim on and find out about these awards. And who knows, maybe there's even some listeners that might want to put their name in. I think there's still time. So,
yeah, that's right. But
yeah. So you want to bring Jim on?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a bio?
Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
Yeah. Huge crowd today.
That's the kind of applause you get when somebody wins that. Let's see, what am I looking at here? Which one is it? The golden has got to be the first place, right?
Our first place is actually what we call the Global Crushy. That's the clear.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
Oh.
And then
Can you fill that thing up with beer? I bet you could fill that thing up with beer.
Well, it's funny you say that because the original award we had for the first couple of years was actually made by the same manufacturer that makes the Emmy Award and the MTV Moon Man.
Right.
And we decided last year to reinvent it, and it now is 100% made in the USA by a company called Steel Taps.
Yep.
And it's actually a tap handle now.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you can see that top part actually pops off magnetically, you could use it on your award-winning beer tap and then put it back in and put it back on the shelf.
Very cool.
That's amazing.
That. Multi-purpose. Everything's reusable these days.
It has to be.
Yes, absolutely.
So to our listeners, we have Jim McCune. We probably should have said your full name. Yeah. He is the founder of the Craft Beer Marketing Awards. You're looking at the site as we speak. And he's going to give us a little insight into this. Tell us all about these awards. But first, before we jump into that, Jim, if you don't mind, Sean and I are going to do a little toast. We're going to share what we're having. Maybe you could be a little judge of what we've got here. Maybe the artwork.
You drinking?
Yeah. You want to go first, Jonathan?
Yeah. So I've got a milk porter on today. It is it's called Cocoa Bunny from the folks at Creature Comforts.
Delicious.
Creature Comforts. Are they? They're not on the awards list, are they, Jim?
They have one in the past for sure.
Oh, have they? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Awesome. All right, Cocoa Bunny. So let me tell you about Cocoa Bunny. Is a milk porter brewed with toasted coconut, cocoa nibs, and coffee. Flavors are rich, velvety, and balanced. The coffee is an Ethiopian blend from 1,000 Faces Coffee. Never heard of it. Based out of Athens, Georgia, of course. I hear these guys. I think I've heard these guys on a local radio show before out of Athens. It'll be interesting. A little coconut and coffee.
Well, Jonathan, we're on the same page, same wavelength
Oh,
today.
all right.
So I have got Fair State Co-op, Favor of the Foxes. It is a dark coffee lager with vanilla.
Ooh.
So yeah, usually you see a stout with something like that. This is a dark lager with vanilla. It says Flavor of the Foxes, rich malty dark lager with coffee and vanilla, best paired with friends and a board game. So we're not doing a board game, but we'll do a podcast instead.
A podcast, yes.
6.5% alcohol by volume. Like I said, Fair State Brewing Cooperative. Not sure where they're out of, but I thought it had a very like Dunkin' Donuts kind of look to it.
It does.
Those brown and the pink, the orange.
The pink.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very simple and nice. Jumped off the shelf at me. But you're having bunnies. I'm having foxes. We're just coffee, vanilla. Like we're doing the whole thing. So, and it's definitely dark. I mean, that's a dark lager.
Yeah,
it really is. Wow.
In my Yeti cup, but yeah, let's cheers it up and we'll taste it up, and then we'll hear about
cheers.
What Jim's doing.
Jim, you can judge our clink. You can judge the darkness. Maybe you could judge the darkness of a beer. Hold that up, Sean.
They both look pretty opaque to me.
Yeah. Like there's no
Jonathan, that's got that nice creamy head on there. I don't know.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Yeah. Mine is not as not
good
as
stuff. I wish I wasn't participating in moist January. But yeah, I'm
sorry for the temptation there, Jim. We're no intention whatsoever.
I'm out here on Long Island, and we have 67 breweries now. So
of course,
wow.
So there's
yes. Tell us a little bit about the. I've got a friend here who has a brewery. I'm in Austin. He's got a brewery up in Temple, and he's told me that the breweries have had a tough year or two recently. What are you seeing in just the brewery industry and the environment? And then we'll talk specifically about the awards.
Yeah, it's mixed. I think a lot of the news of, people drinking less beer is coming from big beer. From what we see here, craft beer, I mean, everyone is like expanding. Most of my clients, most of my friends' breweries, they've only started in the last 5 to 7 years as small microbreweries. One of them now has, a multi-million-dollar brewery restaurant on the water that they just built last year. So, it's a mixed bag. I do think people might be shifting, their drinking habits a little bit, but craft beer is as strong as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely seems like craft beers are also, with the breweries, are becoming much more of an experiential thing.
Right.
Where it's now kind of like the corner pub. Jonathan and I grew up in the South. We didn't really have the corner pub like you might have in New York or Boston or, the Northeast. Yeah. And I think we're getting that culture a little bit down here with breweries, out here in Texas, where people can go and, play cornhole and have a beer. And like, it really has this sense of community. So I think those will continue to do well. I think people are just trying to produce craft beer without that environment. I don't know.
Had a really hard time since COVID, that kind of like killed draft beer for a minute. A lot of the breweries that did pivot and move into packaged goods have done really well, and probably going to stick with packaged goods. So, they've done a lot of hard work to survive over the last couple of years. So I think what you're just seeing right now is a little bit of goods exhaustion. I mean, we drank so much since 2019. It's berserk. So it's just going to take a reset button, which,
sure.
I'm sure will be here before even the summer.
Well, maybe we can get rid of seltzers, and that would solve a lot of problems.
It's starting to happen.
That's I think, because I saw the stat last week or the week before where beer sales were the lowest since 1999. And I think you're probably right. There's probably some big beer pushing those stats, and it's probably just their beer. It's probably not really taking into account all the microbreweries. Really
Bud Light,
right.
The debacle that they got into with the advertising, which, is kind of just.
Oh, yeah. Right. That was a big, that was a big hit on, Bud Light last year. But that's actually a good, I think that's a good point, because I don't think there's many craft brew drinkers that are going to seltzers. I think it's probably the people that are drinking the, the light,
Light
domestic beers that, the large.
Probably a lot of the female drinkers, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
or
it's
millennials.
surprising that the craft beer and the craft seltzer, were almost sort of equal planes there for a bit. But the malt-based hard seltzers are starting to shrink a little bit. And I mean, you see non-alcoholic seltzer now, and I'm like, isn't that just seltzer?
Yeah. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah.
So. Well, Jim, tell us what you do. Your organization there, what you do, and then about the awards coming up.
Yeah, like the age-old story was Jackie is my partner in our marketing agency, where we do a lot of craft beverage and craft beer marketing and design. And we had all this great work in 2019, and we had always attending these beer tasting competitions where brewmasters are winning awards. So we wanted to just enter our marketing and design, and to our surprise, there was no competition. So we decided, let's just create our own. We called it the Craft Beer Marketing Awards. Took about a year, 2019 to 2020, to design it and build it, and get some judges. And we were off to our races in 2020. And, it did so well in the first year that we decided to go global in our second year.
Wow.
So we just kickstarted our 5th season. And we actually got away from regions, and that's usually how we evented in the past. You were competing against your own area for those categories, and then you had the option to upgrade, and with that same entry, compete globally. We've done away with that. Now the competition is fierce than ever because every entry is competing at the global level. So that's a pretty exciting new option this year.
Yeah, so these people will be world champions this go around, huh?
Yeah, it's tough because literally only the top ranked winner in each category will win that global Crushy Award, and then the rest will battle it out between the platinum and the gold.
Oh wow! So tell us some of the categories that y'all look at.
So we did a big adjustment this year. We used to have about 40 categories, and it became unwieldy. Some categories just seem to be undeserved. So what we did this year is narrow it down to 25 of our top categories.
Okay.
Of course, our number one category is a 16-ounce can. That's sort of like the epitome of the industry, and where most of those marketing and design resources go is.
So that'd be this can here, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be a perfect contender.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we run the gamut of everything: website, photography, social media, tap handles, coolest tap room.
Oh, wow. I would love, yeah. So I see you have a list on your website, which is craftbeermarketingawards.com. There's a link to last year's winners where you can start to kind of click through and see some of the winners, things like that.
The last 4 years, winners gallery is there. Every winner in every category. It's a great resource, a point of inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you scroll down, yeah, there you go, Jonathan.
Oh, okay. You got to scroll further.
Just the sheer, creativity and innovation that goes into this stuff. It's amazing. It's really like no other industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we've talked before on this show. It's kind of like wine went through the same transformation where the labels had to get more and more interesting. And I think craft beer has done the same thing where the branding has to stand out. Because that's, you really do judge a book by a cover, or, a craft beer by its container.
Wow, you guys.
In 1997, when I was marketing my first brewery, there was only 415 breweries in the whole country. When I'm working for my clients now, there's 15,000 breweries in the country.
Wow.
Like, it's dramatic difference.
Yeah. So what do you guys kind of look for? I mean, that's how many people, well, first, how many people enter this, and when can you enter? Is it too late, or?
No, well, you guys could enter up until February 5th. So right now we're right in the midst of our entry window. We get thousands of entries from all around the globe. If you check out our judges link there, we have close to 700 judges that all volunteer their time. These are all industry professionals from around the world. So that is one of the cool parts about entering, is your work is being critiqued by, your peers globally.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys will request the winners, even in the non-winners, notes of what did the judges say. And they come in 2 columns, positive comments, negative comments, and the entrants get that and can take that to help ladder up.
It's very cool.
Some of these we've had, I know. I'm just scrolling.
Yeah, 338 episodes we've had, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure you guys.
No, we need to start ordering some of them.
It's like most of them, I don't, aren't as familiar, but some of these are. But man, these are some pretty creative designs on the can art. I mean, Sean and I talked. That's kind of one of the things that draw us, because when you're trying to pick a different brew every week, you're looking for something that stands out first and foremost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the art design on these are really good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It takes a lot of judges to go through it. It's a very strict numeric way we do things. It's highly encrypted back end that the judges log into.
Right.
And they get a series of questions for each piece that they judge. So it's really serious. It gets heavily competitive. Everybody wants to win because the winners go on a year-long PR tour.
Wow. So that's amazing.
We have an incredible PR team that we work with, and click on our news. That's just 4 years of competition. You could hardly scroll to the bottom. So we really are fortunate that people love to write about us because it is a lot of fun.
Hey, you guys have a podcast too, right?
We do.
What's it called?
That's Marketing on Tap.
I like it.
Beautiful. I love that.
You're the 67th top marketing podcast in Croatia.
There you go. Can't miss. So what do you guys, do you talk specifically about craft beer marketing, or you talk marketing in general, or what do you cover on that podcast?
Yeah, we talk about innovation in marketing and design, specifically in beverage. We try to have on past winners, past entrants, judges, and we've been really fortunate to have some amazing sponsors over the years. This year we have DHL and Isuzu.
I thought you were going to say Bud Light.
No, thank you.
They might be looking for any avenue they can find.
They can enter, but no. So yeah, that's we have a great category 26 this year. It's a free category to enter, and that's sponsored by Isuzu Commercial Trucks of America.
Okay,
and that's for any artist to design a wrap for their sexy 2-in-1 beer vehicles. Which are these cool refrigerated trucks that have the tap handles on the side, and they literally roll in with the whole party.
Yeah.
So that's something, if you're listening, and you're a designer or creative person, it's a great opportunity and a pretty cool prize to get some tickets to the Craft Brewers Conference.
Very cool. Well, how do people enter, and what are all the ways they can kind of find out about you, social, things like that? What are the best websites and all that?
The best way is thecrushies.com, aka the Craft Beer Marketing Awards.com. We're definitely on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Jackie and I are very accessible by email. We consider ourselves like a networking entity, and really at the end of the day, as designers and officers ourselves, this whole platform was built to recognize and celebrate people that weren't getting the attention for doing all that amazing work.
Yeah, love
That's
it.
amazing.
Great stuff.
So how did this start with, was it, who are the original founders? I mean, that's kind of sat down and planned this whole thing out?
I've had this idea probably for the last 20 years almost, and it was just sort of like finding the right time to do it.
Yeah.
And we had no idea, like the second we were inventing this, we were heading right into COVID. That didn't really affect us. We lost quite a few judges that, were actually sick.
Right.
But other than that, we had pulled it off. But Jackie DeBella and Ernie Canadeo, we're the three founders of the Craft Beer Marketing Awards. We come from the EGC Group. We're a beverage marketing agency in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was going to say, those are very New York names.
Oh yeah, you're either Jim, John, or Tony out here.
So you already had the marketing agency prior to you starting the awards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Yeah, we're in our 11th year of the craft beverage marketing division. But myself, I've been in beer marketing since 1996.
That's awesome.
That's really
we've had some guests on that you probably would recognize. Some that I'm sure the names will. One particular, what's the guy that came on that I'm trying to think of the guy that sold his business to, of course he sold his business to a bigger brand, Budweiser.
Oh yeah, one of the early Pete's Wicked Ale.
Yeah, Pete's Wicked Ale.
Pete Schlossberg.
Yeah, he came on. He joined us, I guess it was some time ago, but it was a cool story about his.
Yeah. He's actually one of the reasons I got into beer. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Well, before we let you go, we're gonna make you suffer through our ratings, Jim. We give our ratings for our beers at 1 to 5 pints. I want to hear what Jonathan's was, and I'm sure he wants to hear what mine was. So, Jonathan, what would you, after a few sips, how would you rate your Cocoa Nib beer?
Cocoa Bunny.
Cocoa Bunny.
All right, let's
on a scale of 1
so
to 5.
I'm giving this, Jim. I'm not so sure about the artwork, but the taste is amazing. I'm going to give it. I'm going to give this one a 4. I'm going to give it a 4.8. It's really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, mine has a lot of coffee coming through, which I like, because if you buy something on the it says dark coffee lager on the can, you want the coffee taste to come through.
Yep.
And it really does. And because it's a lager, it's not as sweet as, like an imperial stout or something like that. So I'm kind of in that same ballpark, Jonathan. I'm going to go 4.75.
Okay.
It's really strong. I'm going to give I love the can though. So I'm going to give the can, like, we don't usually do the cans, but for you, Jim, we're doing the cans. What would you, on a scale of 1 to 5 pints, what would you give that can, Jim? Or even just pick a winner if you don't want to give a rating.
That's like right up my alley. I would say the Creature Comforts is probably a 4. And that Favor of the Foxes, I'd give a 5.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought you would. I would think that too.
Yeah, this just stands the simplicity of it. The other
we
one's
had
a little
another
busy.
hour. I would break down why.
We might have to have you back on then after the awards, and maybe you can talk about the winners.
That would be fantastic. I always
make it
love
part of the PR tour.
Definitely, and I'll be drinking then, so I'll be a lot funner.
Yeah, there you go.
Where's the show this year?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Okay, cool.
Wow, very nice.
It was here in. Of course, I'm in Knoxville, so it was a stone's throw away, or a little more than that for me over in Nashville last year. But I don't think I'm going out to Vegas this year. Not for that.
Definitely stay in touch. If you ever need a ticket to the show or anything like that, always hit me up. And
yeah, there we go. Hey, Sean.
There we go.
Let's do
Business
this.
trip.
That's right. Tax write-off. Thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on. We'll be sure to post the link on our show page for this. And like Sean said, definitely got to have you on afterward for certain, and we'll stay in touch.
Sounds great. Thecrushies.com. Check it out. Appreciate all the support from everybody.
You bet.
Right. Thanks, Jim. Have a great day. Great weekend.
Thank you guys.
Yep. You bet. That was good.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good story.
That's cool, man. Just, it's kind of like you do with your podcast and composites industry. It's like, having that other outlet to support
you
the
just
marketing
create.
business is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, think of the influence you create. I mean, you already have, from a standpoint, you already have the marketing agency, but creating something in that industry, and it's beneficial. It brings everybody together. I mean, and it kind of brings that competition. You know, people want to compete. You know, all of these different phases, whether it's design, whether it's logo, whether it's, you know, your marketing. You know, I mean, there
it's
were
crazy.
so many.
Some of the categories. I mean, like, you know, like you said, man, just the keg handles. You know, I don't even think that's the right term. I went blank on that. but anyway, yeah. I mean, there's just the number of categories. What do you say? 25 different categories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you own a brewery or you know someone who owns a brewery, make sure they know about these awards. Maybe get your local area, you know, represented. Still time. So yeah, let's jump. Good stuff.
It's another great lesson there, Sean, is like, if you, sometimes you can create your own community, right? I mean, just like you were saying, the what I do in composites, like if you want to reach your target market, sometimes you got to build a community around that to be the center of influence. And so you're at the center of attention, as opposed to you trying to get in the inner circle. Right. You create the circle around you.
What better way than like give people awards? Like,
right, exactly. Oh, and by the way, we also we're also a marketing agency for beer companies. I mean, how brilliant is that? You know, so
such a great tie-in for sure, man. So.
Yeah, good lesson.
All right, well, let's go back in time. So we first started talking about this book, Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, which is one of the, if you ask most copywriters and a lot of direct response marketers, like to name their top 5 books, especially copywriters, or marketers that came up with copywriting chops, this is usually on their list, you know, in the top 5. And it's an old book. It's published, you know, back in the 70s or maybe 68, something like that. I don't remember the exact date. Let's see. What was it 1964? Was the original copyright on it. So, or is that 50? I don't know. 84 something. I can't tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's an old book. So the question is it still relevant? We covered this book in depth over about 4 or 5 episodes. Early
on in our show, like early beginnings. Yeah,
I think it was like the first 10, you know, somewhere in the first 10 podcasts.
Yeah, when we were meeting in person.
Yeah. So we thought, you know, 5 years later, it's time to come back and revisit and see if it's still alive, see if it's still good.
Tear it apart.
Let's jump in. First, a couple of facts on Eugene Schwartz, if you're not familiar. Eugene Schwartz was really well-known copywriter, and he's famous for his breakthrough approaches to copy. Wrote a lot of stuff for his own products and books, for other people. Did a lot of stuff with Boardroom Publications, Phillips Publishing back in the day. So he was a big information, you know, what we would consider the information marketing world. Lots of books and reports and things like that seemed to be his stuff that he did really well with. Newsletters, all those kind of things. And some of his headlines and stuff are crazy, which we'll probably get into on the next episode. We're going to break this up into 2 episodes. Really kind of hit his peak at 50s and 60s. He was also a avid modern art collector, had one of the largest private collections in the world at the time. So I guess he was doing okay.
Must have been. Yeah.
But one of his things that he's best known for was his ability to understand consumer psychology, and kind of why were people making the decisions they were making when they saw the ads.
Right.
And the other thing is he typically only wrote for 3 hours a day.
That's amazing focus, right?
Yes.
I mean, you just focus in 3 hours a day.
Yeah, and rumor has it that he did it in like 33-minute and 33-second time slots.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would take like a 5-minute break. And the reason it was 33 was not anything like scientific, but he had an egg timer.
Okay.
And that's the highest it would go was 3. So he would just hit 3.
Oh, okay.
So not real scientific. That was as high as it would go. So that's what he picked.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know who cooks eggs for 33 minutes, but that's 33 the story as I heard it.
33.33. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's amazing. I mean, obviously being able to create that much within a 3-hour span, obviously focus, concentration. But one of his things, like you said, Sean, had an amazing ability to understand human psychology and how people really ultimately make decisions on how they buy.
Yep.
And so we're going to pick apart this, human psychology really doesn't change. Consumer habits can change with technology, but I don't think the psychology behind it necessarily changes. But we're going to analyze that from a point of some of his chapters on mass desire, state of awareness, state of sophistication, the power of new. I can already tell you, we're going to play devil's advocate, but I can already tell you that some of these things don't change. The power of new, the shiny thing that always gets our attention and distracts us and pulls us away, I don't think is ever going to, that's
interesting. Like, to pull that apart. Why is that? Like, if human psychology doesn't change, but the new stuff changes, like, how do you keep those two tied together? That's kind of one of the things he starts with in chapter 1.
Right.
Is this idea of mass desire.
Right.
It's probably, really the first 3 chapters are what he's most, and probably chapter 6, the stages of sophistication.
Yep.
Are some of the things he's best known for. And by the way, if you don't know Eugene Schwartz and you're just, you're listening and you're kind of new to this world, pretty much every top marketing guru today pulled their ideas from this book. Like,
absolutely,
this is one of those
foundation
core touchstone books. This and My Life in Advertising by Claude Hopkins. That's another big one. But this, I think, gets more technical than any other book out there.
Yeah,
of the classic books, because it really gets into. It's very almost like a textbook.
It really is. You can go deep.
Yeah, and it takes a little. You're not just going to like pick this up and go through it in a weekend.
No,
it's pretty dense, and you'll need to go back, chapter by chapter and kind of let it digest and those kind of things. But what he says right out of the gate, and I think, he says, copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task, not to create the mass desire, but to channel and direct it.
Yeah.
So a couple things is like, when he says mass desire, what is that? Like, I think we need to define that. So
hopes, dreams, desires, emotions. What do people throughout, the beginning of time, or at least, in recent history, I guess the last 200 or 300 years. I mean, I think things shift a little bit, but I think that the desire to be successful, the desire to be financially free, those are things, I guess.
Who was it that said, I don't know if it was it Mae West or Roy Rogers, one of those old people in the like 50s or 60s. They said you can never be too rich, too thin, and too good looking.
That's right.
And that kind of summed it up, right? You can never be too rich, too thin, or good looking.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. That's what I used to think he was specifically talking about when he said mass desire. But as I was going back and rereading for this episode, this is why you should reread books. He actually has a very specific definition for mass desire right in the second page of the first chapter. And he says, we can define this mass desire quite simply. It is the public spread of a private want. So it's not just that there's this want to be rich or this want to be thin or good looking, right? Or whatever the thing is. It's that it's spread far enough and enough that it has created mass desire, not private desire, right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason that's important in the context of the book is because you need a big enough market to market to.
Right.
Like, the old Ryan Dice underwater basket weaving was always his example because it's a ridiculous niche and probably 2 people in the world do it, so nobody was ever going to just copy that niche. So he goes on to say, it is the moment when a private desire is shared by a statistically significant number of people, large enough to profitably repay selling these people, that a market is born. So it's not really a mass desire until there are enough people to support the advertising and the sales of your product to that market.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting distinction that I'd missed before. So, and, he says in here, that could be someone, there may be thousands of people who like really fine antiques, but there may be millions of people, who want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Tens of millions. Right. And the affordability or the ability to advertise those markets is very different because of the size of that market.
Right.
So there may be mass desire, but that mass desire may be 1,000 people, or it may be 1 million people, or maybe 1 billion people. Right.
Right.
So I think
depending on your industry or niche. Right. Yeah. I mean, so the money, in other words, the expense or the time, the expense of time and resources, is probably related to the size of that niche as well, right? I mean, if you're going after weight loss niche, well, that's huge. Of course, but
it's easier to find those people. So
absolutely, yeah.
There may be more competition, which we'll get into in later chapters.
Right.
But there's also more people. You can throw a dart and hit somebody. Like you could throw a dart blindfolded and hit somebody who needs to lose weight. Right.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard to do.
That's right. Even people that don't need to lose weight think they need to lose weight.
They need to, right. But try to find the people who like high-end antiques from the 15th century.
Right.
A little bit smaller market. Probably not going to be found at your local PTA meeting, whatever. Like, you're going to have to really know who those people are and know where to find them.
Yeah.
But it could still be considered a mass desire if there's a couple thousand of them in the world.
Yeah. Because they're probably, even though it's a smaller niche, they're probably willing to spend more, right?
Right.
Those are smaller markets that that have a higher margin. In terms of
your industry, with
exactly.
Another thing I saw in chapter 1 was that I kind of read over before was this idea he has called the amplification effect. And it's basically, we talk about ROI all the time, return on investment, right? You put $1 in, you get $2 out. Well, he calls that the amplification effect, because you can't just spend $1 on advertising in and of itself and expect to get $10, $20 back without that mass desire already being there.
Yeah.
So what you do is, because this mass desire is there, it creates this amplification effect that allows you to put $1 in and get 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 50 back.
Right.
So I thought that was just another little thing that, like I said, didn't catch the first couple of times through the book for whatever reason. And, it stuck out this time as I was going through it. So, he continues to talk in chapter 1. We're not going to go page by page or anything, but the importance of tapping into the existing desires rather than trying to create new desires.
Yeah.
So one of my questions is, where did new desires come from? Like, because we were talking about there's some kind of core desires.
Yeah.
But if you understand that kind of nuance, like a mass market could be, people who like fine antiques, then you can start to see, well, there's also now a mass market for high-end luxury sports cars that probably wasn't there 50 years ago, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's interesting to pay attention to how do these new markets come into being?
Yeah.
Like, how do they go from like a small collector's club, on a Saturday morning,
yeah,
to all of a sudden, thousands or hundreds of thousands of people want to own a high-end exotic sports car, or even, street racer car. That'd be a good example, right? Of that whole culture that came up, and now people are spending $100,000 on a, Toyota, whatever, to trick it out, put a new engine, new suspension, lights, everything else.
Right.
So I think that's where I've always looked at this book before, and it's like, yeah, you're just tapping into the big desires. But it's much more nuanced than that. It's like, how do you spot and take advantage of these new desires that are coming on?
Yeah.
So what do you think are some new desires that have come on in the last, well, even since this book was written?
So outside of our core desires, I would say, some of the new desires, it's, I think of like when you're talking about like everybody, there's a core audience of people that have their own affinity for something. Yeah. And the easiest way to sometimes the easiest way to identify that is to take a stroll down the magazine. I know we're in 2024, but people still do subscribe to magazines, or they still buy magazines. All you have to do is go down to your, local bookstore and just walk down. Yeah. The grocery store, Barnes and Noble or a Books A Million, and look at like it still blows me away. I'm like, how are these things still making, how are these publications still in business? But they're in business because there's obviously a core audience of people who tap into that, whether it's quilting, whether it's like you said, antiques, whether it's fly fishing, there's publications dedicated to people that are fly fishermen, and these people spend lots of money. Same with golfing, what I love. People spend lots of money, but there's fly fishing, there's boating, there's airplanes, people that are lovers of flying. You can just go to your local bookstore and find several publications on aviation and airplanes, and you can flip through it and you can see all the articles, and then you can see people in the back of the magazine that are selling XYZ product or XYZ component for your private airplane. Yeah. And which is a lot of money. People are willing to spend money. So all you have to do is take a trip to your local bookstore to see all the people that are willing to spend a lot of money on something that you or I would not even consider. Like,
yeah,
what?
I mean, as I'm sitting here drinking a craft beer, 20 years ago, I didn't even know what a craft beer was.
Right. Yeah.
And that now it's a huge market. I mean, what did Jim just say when he was on? When he started in 97, there was like 900 breweries in the U.S. Now there's 15,000.
That's right.
So that's a great example of how a market goes from being a kind of a very niche market to a mass desire type market.
Absolutely. And to that, and in that genre, you think of, magazines like Wine Spectator, where, it's a publication people read that are wine lovers. There's Cigar Aficionado for people that, buy fine cigars and spend a lot of money on some of the best cigars. So you're always going to find a market. And I don't know, I think that market, to your question, Sean, since this book's been written, I think the affluence of people has gone up over time, so that people can afford some of the luxuries that probably weren't around. And so that's what's created these publications, is that people now have affinity for things that, only the wealthy could afford back in, Schwartz's time, that he's probably writing about, but are still willing to spend money. They're probably not super rich, but they're doing okay enough to spend money on the things that they like. So,
and I think also because our world has gotten flatter with technology, this is not a flat earth theory commentary,
which is another niche,
whole different niche. But because I saw a study that said kids, for instance, who are dancers are getting better at dancing faster because of YouTube, because they can see dancers from around the world at all kinds of different skill levels that they can mimic. Because, as humans, we learn best by mimicry and watching and observing better than we do any other way. So YouTube has really cracked open this world where people, I think another good example is cooking, right? You just cooked. Now, man, kitchens are $100,000 kitchens. You got all these gadgets. You've got 14 spoons to make one meal, right? Because you got to have the right slotted spoon and then the right,
absolutely,
all these tools and gadgets.
Yeah.
And the
absolutely.
pots, the pans.
You can't just make and no longer is a coffee maker sufficient. You have to have so many artistic ways to make coffee nowadays. You've got to do French press. French press is the best way, because you're a schmuck if you use a coffee pot.
Exactly. and we could get in, like, a lot of copywriters, I can hear them out yelling at the podcast. They're like, but there's a deeper desire behind that. And I understand that. And I agree with that. I think if you pull back, like, why are people buying nicer coffee machines or spending more on kitchens? It's to make them feel a certain way, blah, blah, blah. You could get back to the really, really core desires. And that's what I used to think this book was about. But the fact is, it's more about tapping into those current mainstream mass desires. Like, it's not just the human nature stuff that he's talking about in this book. Yeah. It's really about these mass trends, I think, is almost a better way to say it. Obviously you want to go back into human nature and pull that out, but that's very subtle how you have to do that. Like, you're probably not going to be able to say in copy, although you could do it in hyperbole, I guess. You're going to feel better about yourself because you have this coffee maker on your counter. Every morning when you come out, you'll see it and you'll feel the pride and the prestige. There are certain brands that would do that. But for the most part, that's not how you would write the copy. Right. But that's an interesting thing that I've picked up this second time this time going through the book. It's probably my third or fourth time going through the book. So that's a little nuance I'm picking up so far as we're going through this.
Yeah. I think sometimes the desire is created too, that we don't realize until we read the copy, and maybe we don't realize we're in that until we read, like, oh, wow, that looks pretty nice.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think,
you think about that, right, Sean? Like, you've been doing it the same way. Yeah. You've been perfectly content with your kitchen and your kitchen gadgets and the way you make coffee for the longest time until somebody says, and shows you. And nowadays, it's not so much through, back in his day, it was through readable copy. Now it's through really good, video content that you can see, high quality that really captures your attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were just getting into TV, really back in his day.
Right.
And now it's like, if you were watching TV, and even when we grew up in the 80s, you had 3 channels to choose from. Then Fox came along, you had 4 channels to choose from,
Right.
maybe some PBS. And, if you could find something on the UHF knob, maybe you could, find something weird out there.
Yeah.
But now, because of the way things have continued to splinter,
yeah,
I mean, you have a whole network for, HGTV for just making you want a nicer, bigger house, making you want a nicer kitchen, making you want
absolutely
that new $30,000 oven that you cook in, twice a week because you're doing DoorDash every day. Like, I mean, Tamara and I have joked about it. It's like,
yeah,
why is it that the nicer people's kitchens get, the less they cook? Like,
exactly.
You go into the project.
That's right.
And
they're cooking some food, man.
Mom is in there cooking for the whole block.
Yeah. There's gravy on the stove. I mean, there's like,
a 4-burner electric stove. It's probably for 19, whatever. And she's putting out the best food ever. And you got people with these $100,000, 15 burner stoves.
Absolutely.
And they're not making anything on it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
One example of that. What is the name of the pan? It's called the Hex. You might think of this. You've probably seen ads for it. The Hex, it's like a Gordon Ramsay endorsed.
Gordon Ramsay's, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Hexclad. Hexclad.
Yes, Hexclad. That's it. Hexclad.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta have it, right?
So yeah. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, you're not. You might as well give up any desire to ever cook an omelet if you don't have a Hexclad. You might as well just order McDonald's. I mean, but this thing, I mean, and it's really good. I mean, if you've not seen the advertising that they do or some of the ads on Facebook.
Wait. Did you buy one?
No, I didn't. I have resisted.
I do have
they look really cool.
Yeah, I do have one from one brand. It's not the Hexclad that I went to a friend's house. They had this pan. And it made the best eggs. So easy. It was like a non-sticky kind of thing. And I immediately, when I got home, bought it. And now I use that pan every single day to make my eggs and omelet because it just worked. Like, it was really good. So yeah, but yeah, I've seen those Hexclad commercials. I mean, that's another example, right? We have a whole cooking channel. So now everybody's trying to be, everybody's trying to beat Bobby Flay now because, right? You got to, you can't just throw out some cheese and crackers. It's got to be a charcuterie board.
Yeah, the sophistication of the palate has gone up incredibly.
And cheese would not cut it anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's got to be like imported cheese from Scandinavia and crackers from Europe.
Absolutely. I mean, when we were growing up, Sean, it was like, you put if you made a homemade pizza, it was like you put it on just a pan, just a tin pan in the oven. You flattened out your dough in there, you poured your sauce and you put it in there. Our parents like nothing fancy, but nowadays you got to have a your mini wood-fired oven nowadays if you want a good pizza, right?
Yeah, in the outdoor kitchen, it costs as much as most people's indoor kitchen.
That's right.
And we didn't even have homemade pizza growing up. We had Totino's. 99 cents.
Perfect.
It was as close to school pizza as you could get.
That's it.
And it would burn the roof of your mouth every time on the first bite.
It's like lava, man. Lava.
I mean, Totino's pizza is the ramen noodles of pizza.
Yeah.
And I still to this day love them. Like, I don't get them very often, but I still love them to this day. I don't know why. Just one of those.
They're fantastic.
Nostalgic.
I love the crunch and they get flat crust. But
so let's ask this: like, if we're tapping into these desires, and we'll kind of wrap up chapter 1 with this.
Yeah.
Are we taking advantage of people by trying to leverage these and sell them stuff?
Well, I think if you're tapping into what they already want, you could make the argument, no, you're tapping into a desire that's already there. You're not, any good marketer knows that you're not trying to, you're not trying to change someone's opinion. You're trying to tap into what they already think. You're not trying to change their desire. You're trying to tap into what's already there. And so you're kind of meeting them there where they already are, although it could be beyond, it could be kind of surface level or, kind of hidden maybe. And, your ads or your marketing has a tendency to kind of bring that out. It's kind of like me. I mean, like, example of HexClad, no reasonably, I've never would have thought about a pan until I saw the ad, and then it starts talking about the reason. Now, my hidden desire would be, I'd love to be able to cook an omelet faster without, being able to turn the heat up, without using a ton of butter and then, burning the omelet or burning the egg in the pan.
Which is really about the cleanup more than anything, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Right? It's just like, if I cook an omelet,
yeah,
it's going to get all over the pan. Then I'm going to have to clean the pan. That's really what that's about.
That's
it's
right.
Like, it's really more about some people, it's going to be having the perfect omelet with just the perfect amount of brown and right. Just that
that's
perfect
right.
look. Like me with my grilled cheese sandwiches, like that's an art form to me.
It's an art. Yes.
But I think for a lot of people, especially with
Yeah.
omelets and eggs, it's like,
Yeah.
it's such a mess to clean
That's
up
right.
afterwards.
That's right.
But man, if I can just slide those eggs right out of the pan and then like almost not even have to clean the pan, like you can just take a paper towel and wipe it out, or just, it makes you want to use it more often.
Right.
So in that way, I think, instead of it being manipulative and taken advantage of, I think it's actually a service.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, cool.
I don't think you can be, and I don't know. It's if you're meeting people where what they truly want, I don't think it's, I don't see a problem with that. And we could get into, the way social media programs is today. That's a whole different topic. Yeah. we could go down the rabbit trail on that, but, I do think, in a challenging, here's another topic for me is like in my industry, how do I, I'm constantly faced with, because I'm in an industry where I'm not selling something that's, necessarily, luxurious or attractive, in any way.
Yeah.
I'm selling something that's kind of, rudimentary, industrial.
In a lot of cases, it's literally a commodity, right?
In some ways, yeah. In the challenge that I always have in the industrial sectors is to break away from, I can't be in that commodity area. I have to find ways to create desire and not be a commodity. Because if you're in a commodity, then you start talking price. And when when you're talking price, it's a race to the bottom. Then you've already lost. So there's a constant challenge in industrial marketing and sales and in these sectors to, find ways to not be a commodity. And how do you tap into the desires, and not just the desires of a company? You're not tapping into desires of a company. You're tapping into desires of a person. As Dan Kennedy always said, you're never talking to a company. You're talking to a person who has hopes, dreams, desires, and fears, whether they're going to be, replaced, laid off,
and
fired.
A company, it may be 3 different people with 3 different desires.
Absolutely.
And you've got to figure out all 3 and
exactly
create your proposal so it satisfies the purchasing agent,
right,
the CEO, and whoever else, operations manager and all that stuff, all in one.
Absolutely.
Which those 3 people, operations, purchasing, and CEO, very different desires.
Yep, for sure.
So that's the challenge when you get into that kind of world, as opposed to the consumer world.
And getting them all on the same page. Good luck.
Yeah, that's why you get paid the big bucks right there. That's right. That's why you're golfing all the time. You know how to do it. So
that's right. That's another avenue of desire right there that you can tap into.
Greasing the chutes for a little recreation and
for sure.
Well, let's anything else you want to cover in chapter 1?
No, I think this is a good start. We can I think I love this book. So I'm more than satisfied to spend, another couple of episodes,
why don't we pick up, since we had a guest today, why don't we pick up in chapter 2 next week?
Very good.
Kind of do a deep dive, but we'll keep things moving for our listeners and things like that.
Absolutely.
And hey, if you're out there listening, we stream this live at 4 Eastern on YouTube. Every week. So if you get in there, you can leave comments under the video. Just look for Persuasion by the Pint. If you follow us and subscribe, you'll get a notification that it's starting. As long as Jonathan's on time, we usually start at 4 Eastern. So
which never happens.
So you may have to wait till 4:05 or something like that, but it's worth the wait for sure. But yeah, we'd love to have more of you, especially this year, 2024. This is our 5th year doing the show. We'd love to have more of you commenting and participating and giving us some feedback. Yeah,
especially on this book. If you haven't picked up a copy or you don't have a copy, pick up a copy. It's fantastic. Everybody should own a copy, and pick up a copy between now and next week, and let's have a discussion. Bring some comments to the show for sure.
Yeah. So the place to get it right now is from our buddy Brian Kurtz.
Yes,
he owns the rights to it right now.
Breakthrough advertising. I don't think you can even get it. You can't even get it on Amazon, can you?
No, it's breakthroughadvertisingbook.com.
Yeah.
It's breakthroughadvertisingbook.com.
Okay.
And Brian was on an episode with us. He doesn't usually work on Fridays, or he writes on Fridays, so he doesn't usually do shows. We talked him into it because that's how good this show is. So we'll give him a little plug and pitch back.
Yeah.
I think he was on it's probably been 2 years ago now or more.
Yep. That's right.
But he's got some bonuses that go along with the book, and it's not cheap. It's like $125, I think, last time I looked. But he does give you some nice bonuses. And there's even, he's got 2 versions now. You can get just the book for $125, or you can get the bundle for $199. Get all kinds of stuff.
Is that with the Brilliance Breakthrough, or is that a separate?
No, it's Breakthrough Advertising Mastery exercises to help you implement. So like a workbook or something, a training portal.
Yeah.
All the original ads mentioned in full color. That's cool. You have to rebuy.
Yeah.
Great. Summarize chapters for quick reference. So that's new. I don't know how long ago he added that, but that's kind of a cool add-on. So I would say this: if you're in copy or marketing of any kind and you don't have this book, I would not spend money on another course until you go through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because most of the courses are going to be based on.
They're based on, this is everything. Everybody's, it's kind of like Chidini. People pull from Chidini.
There's 3 or 4. In every industry out there, every niche, there's 3 or 4 books that are the root of, or the grandfather kind of that niche, that world, that set of information. And the more you read, the more you notice the same books reference back to.
Yep.
And this is one of those books. Although you don't see a lot of references to this, this is kind of one of those. This one's a little bit more. People kind of keep it to themselves. So
right.
Pick up the book and then join us in a conversation over on YouTube if you want to join us live.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll let you take us out.
Good stuff. And we will post a link on this particular episode, 338, I believe is the episode.
Yes.
There you go, 338, where you can buy it over at Brian Kurtz.
Breakthroughadvertisingbook.com.
There you go. And We'll have that listed. Grab a copy, and maybe we can post a link. Can we post? Are we allowed to post a link to that Google Doc that you shared as a summary, Sean? Or is that private? Okay, I'll share it on the show page. You got to go to the show notes. Got to go to the show notes, 338, and you can check that out. To all of our listeners, you can find it over at persuasionbythepint.com, episode 338. You can also find our podcast on all of your podcast platforms, wherever you like to listen, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. And Sean, this has been fun, man. We'll see you all next week.
See ya.